Good morning. My name is Kate Cox, and I'm one of Horizon's worship associates. We are excited to welcome you to our service this morning, whether you're joining us in person or virtually. Whether you're here for the first time or whether you've been coming to Horizon for so long you don't even remember. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome among us.
So it is a new month, June, and we actually have a new featured artist, if you've gotten a chance to take a look around our walls. Our new art exhibit is a first. It's a husband and wife exhibit. The dual show features nature and meditative abstracts by Deepa Koshali and urban sketches by her husband, Sudeep Kumar. Would you all like to wave, stand up? Thank you. They both are on a quest to capture a slice of time and of our existence within the human and the cosmic landscape. Enjoy their exhibit titled Urban and Abstract, the Seen and the Unseen 3. There will be a reception in the fellowship hall following the service to meet the artists and talk with them about their art. Thank you. And now let us deepen into the spirit of worship with our call to worship this morning, Come to be Blessed, by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Bless today your hesitancy, your shy shrug, your behind the scenes skepticism, your sweet stoicism. Bless your boredom and your anxieties, those worries that will not quiet, no matter the mantras, the metas, or the meditating moments. Bless your impatience and your butterflies, your brash tone and your desire to talk to no one, to care about nothing, to be invisible and invincible, to be already perfect and with ease, of course. Bless your shame, your self-doubt, your inner critic, and your coping techniques, all of them, whatever they may be. Bless most of all your broken heart and all the longings that made it so. Bless your grief and your anger and your still pressing hope. All of these we bless. All of ourselves we bless. In this gathering, made holy by our wholeness, this community made sacred by our scars. Come to be blessed. Come to be a blessing. Come, let us worship together.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are by Linda Franson. We light this flame to ignite our hearts and minds, the spark of knowledge that enlightens, the shimmering hope that burns, the blazing love that engulfs our actions, the bonfire of our commitment. We light this flame for those who celebrate themselves, who fear, who hope, who persevere, who stand on the side of love for all. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed that they may find peace, for those who have fought to marry that they may celebrate, for those who live in uncertainty in the world that they may have hope. We light this flame to renew our commitment that no one shall ever again suffer for the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate our kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, and living on the side of love. For this, we light this flame. Please join me in saying our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth, thus do we covenant together.
I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our opening hymn. It's number 29 in the gray hymnal, Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee.
Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, God of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee, hail thee as the sun above. Melt the clouds of sin and sadness, drive the pain of doubt away. Giver of immortal gladness, fill us with the joy of day. Thy works with joy surround the earth, and heaven reflects thy rays. Stars and planets sing around thee, center of unbroken praise. Field and forest, vale and mountain, blossoming meadow, flashing sea, chanting bird and flowing fountain, call us to rejoice in thee. Thou art giving and forgiving, ever blessing, ever blessed, wellspring of the joy of living, ocean depth of happy rest. Ever singing, march we onward, victors in the midst of strife. Joyful music lifts us onward in the triumph song of life.
So at the congregational meeting, you all selected 7 members to serve on the ministerial search committee. Will the members of the committee come forward as I call your names? Laura Wooten. We're doing random. Saj Survey. Bunny Summerlin. Warren Spiker. Lisa Casto. Gay Cox. And I'd like to acknowledge in spirit Helena Jelakovic. You were chosen by an exceptionally careful process. After explaining the qualifications for the ministerial search committee, both in worship services and in newsletter articles, the Board of Trustees and the Leadership Development and Nominating Committee collected nominations from the congregation. These were votes from you, the congregation, letting the board and the LD&C know who you would entrust with the task of searching for and finding a candidate to become the next called minister of this congregation. This led to the formation of a slate with your names, the 7 who were named the most often and who said yes, they would serve. We are all grateful for your willingness to serve. You were selected because the congregation trusts you to discover and to represent the best interests of the congregation as a whole, not just some smaller constituency or those who agree with your point of view. You were chosen because you were trusted to carry forward the best of the past and to keep your sights on the future. Do you, the members of Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church, pledge to cooperate with these members of the Ministerial Search Committee? And will you promise to support them in their work? If you do, will you answer, "We will"? We will. This begins a journey of getting to know each other's hopes and dreams for this church, styles of communication, and ways of working in a group. This journey begins with self-awareness. Your success will be influenced by how well you are able to work together. In the months to come, you will be helping this congregation to understand itself better and what it needs in its next ministerial leader. You will be learning about and communicating with a number of ministers who are in search for a new congregation to serve. May you communicate with them with gratitude and respect for their unique identities and callings. And eventually, you will be making an important choice when you decide either to bring forward a candidate or to share with the congregation that no candidate is a good match for Horizon. Do you commit yourself to this essential work with your colleagues on the Ministerial Search Committee for Horizon? If you do, please answer, "We do." We do. I am bound ethically not to discuss any potential or actual candidate for the congregation's ministry. And I am here to serve you as minister to the committee and to assist you in your process however needed. As you go forward to do this work, may each of you be reminded that the congregation and that I am supporting you, that we are with you in spirit on this journey. You may now return to your seats and join us in singing the children to their classes. Thank you. Thank you all. Our Share the Plate offering this month, June, Pride Month, supports the Transgender Education Network of Texas. The Transgender Education Network of Texas, or TENT, is the largest trans-led, trans-focused organization in the state of Texas. This from their website. We are an organization dedicated to furthering gender diverse equality in Texas through a racial justice lens with an intersectional approach. TENT works to accomplish this through education and networking, both in both public and private forums. Through our efforts, we strive to halt discrimination through social, legislative, and corporate education. When you give to TENT, your donation supports Gender 101 and trans-safe workshops, political actions like hearing turnout, and Trans Lobby Day. It also supports individual storytelling, which helps to change hearts and minds. With this, please give generously as you are able. The offering will now be joyfully given and received.
yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
Our first reading is Ode to Things by Pablo Neruda. I love all things, not because they are passionate or sweet-smelling, but because, I don't know, because this ocean is yours and mine, and these buttons and wheels and little forgotten treasures, fans upon whose feathers love has scattered its blossoms, glasses, knives, and scissors all bear the trace of someone's fingers on their handle or surface, the trace of a distant hand lost in the depth of forgetfulness.
We come now to the time in our worship service that we set aside for meditation and prayer. I'll invite you first to join me in a moment of silence. We'll hear a spoken prayer and we'll join in singing our responsive hymn, Spirit of Life. I invite you now to join me in a moment of silence. Loving God, Spirit of life, mystery in which we live and move and have our being, draw near to us this morning and hear our prayers. We give thanks today for the gift of this community, for our choice to show up this morning, for our choice always to love one another. We give thanks for all the ways this church shows up in our local community, for all the many hands that work to give us a voice that says, you are welcome here. It is June, Pride Month, one of the times in the year when we acknowledge and celebrate the fullness of queer experience. Spirit, today we acknowledge and celebrate all those who took risks in the name of being their authentic, holy selves. We honor all who have leaned on the arms of chosen family. We give thanks for all who have wondered if it was too late for them to ever be seen as who they truly are. You are seen and acknowledged here among us. Today we celebrate the joy that comes in all kinds of relationships, in all kinds of identities, all forms of gender expression. Here we acknowledge and celebrate all people for the blessing that they are. We also remember today and every day that our world is in pain. We continue to mourn lives lost at the hands of gun violence, even as we take to the streets in rage, wondering, when will we have the courage to say no, not one more? We hold both these sentiments of joy and of pain together this morning in our hearts, knowing that this is what life brings. To experience both is to be human and to live in this world. For all these things and those kept in the silence of our hearts, we pray. Amen. I invite you to remain seated and to join in singing our responsive hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life. Our second reading this morning is entitled "The Thing Is" by Ellen Bass. She writes, "To love life, to love it even when you have no stomach for it, and everything you've held dear crumbles like burnt paper in your hands, your throat filled with the silt of it. When grief sits with you, its tropical heat thickening the air, heavy as water, more fit for gills than lungs. When grief weights you down like your own flesh, only more of it, an obesity of grief, you think, how can a body withstand this? Then you hold life like a face between your palms, a plain face, no charming smile, no violet eyes, and you say, yes, I will take you. I will love you again. It is a new month, and thus we have a new theme. Our theme for the month of June is celebrating blessings. June feels like a natural time of year to celebrate all that has come before and all that we are grateful for. We have done a lot together this year. For those who were at the Pride event here yesterday, you saw how love and affirmation can transform a community. We have much to celebrate, even amidst the chaos of the world. But today, I'm going to focus on blessings. And so I'll begin with a story. One of my professors in seminary, in one of my first classes, reminded all of us that we had suddenly, just by being in seminary, become the most religious person most people in our lives knew. This was maybe especially true as most of us were young in our 20s. And that with this would come the request to officiate at weddings and the invitation to ask the blessing around each holiday table. And all of that has been true. As a minister, we're often asked to bless things, something I didn't think a lot about until it started happening. Prayers I knew, sermons I was learning, blessings I was not sure. Unitarian Universalism is a tradition without much ritual, save for those we create ourselves. We have very few things we say repetitively each week, unlike the liturgies in other traditions. And so the words we do say together become written on our hearts. And because of that, we don't have a specific blessing that we say every week. There's no formula to remind us of what it means to bless someone or something. And for some among us, that is thrilling. So much freedom. For others, it's terrifying. I've always believed that a blessing is something we give someone that affirms the goodness within them, that helps them to feel seen and known. We can give a blessing intentionally, something said aloud, written, but often I think we bless people without knowing it, pulling their goodness, their humanity to the surface without so much as knowing their name. In the words of Rachel Naomi Remen, when we bless others, we offer them refuge from an indifferent world. There's also, of course, the concept of being blessed ourselves. If I had given this sermon even a few years ago, I probably would have talked more about the tendency, especially when portraying one's life on social media, to call ourselves blessed, so much so that it became a hashtag. But somehow, over the past few years, our souls and our spirits have become so burnt out, have reached almost a collective crispiness, that I am not seeing that much anymore. People have traded prosperity gospel for an attempt at honesty, or so it would seem. Still, I cannot, in good conscience, talk about blessings without talking about the prosperity gospel, a very popular Christian message of spiritual, physical, and financial mastery that dominates the theology of so many churches in America and worldwide, if only just to remind us what blessing is not. Dr. Kate Bowler is a professor at Duke Divinity School and is the author of Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved. But Bowler's original work is an academic one, aptly titled Blessed, which is a history of the prosperity gospel movement in North America. And while this movement spans regions, denomination, and congregational size, the common thread is the idea that if one simply has enough faith, if someone does all the right things, that they will be blessed by God with a healthy body, with all the money they need. Now, I do not believe that that is what a blessing is, and this theology can be harmful because, of course, what happens to faith when these things do not come to pass? What are we left with? It's easy to make the leap from there to the idea that bad things are one's own fault because you didn't have enough faith. And much as we might say we reject these beliefs, a lot of our society does not. Even if we do, there are parts of us that subconsciously police ourselves and each other. We feel like we have something to prove, like we have to prove our worth. Finally, I understand why these kinds of ideas are tempting. In a world where there is so much pain, isn't it intriguing to seek a miracle, to want to believe in something good? I think so. So to me, when we talk about blessings, it makes sense for several reasons to begin with Judaism. Judaism, at its heart, is a tradition of rituals passed down from generation to generation in a way that at times I am jealous of. In the words of Carrie Olitsky and Daniel Judson, who write on Jewish ritual, there is a blessing for almost everything in Judaism. There is a blessing for getting up in the morning, for going to sleep, for eating, for seeing wondrous things, for experiencing new things, for the occurrence of good things, for the unfortunate occurrence of bad things, for hearing the news of someone's death, for seeing someone you have not seen in a long time, for going to the bathroom, for studying Torah, for going on a journey, for fulfilling almost any religious commandment, and for just about everything else in life. In the Talmud, one rabbi instructs us to recite 100 blessings throughout the day. His teaching is seen as a way for us to develop a posture of gratitude. Jewish tradition encourages a daily practice of reciting blessings of thanksgiving to God for the goodness in our lives each day. So I think the interesting thing here is that there are blessings for not just the good things, but for the everyday mundane things and for really awful things, like hearing that someone has died. It reinforces this idea that when we take the long view, in words I've heard attributed to St. Francis, life is a prayer. And at the end, we will be able to see that there was a little bit of blessing in all of it. In the words of the beloved teacher Henry Nouwen, our cup of sorrow and joy, when lifted for others to see and celebrate, becomes a cup to life. Mostly, we are willing to look back at our lives and say, I am grateful for the good things that brought me to this place. But when we lift our cup to life, we must dare to say, I am grateful for all that has happened to me and led me to this moment. This gratitude, which embraces all our past, is what makes our life a true gift for others. Because this gratitude erases bitterness, resentments, regret, and revenge, as well as jealousies and rivalries. It transforms our past into a fruitful gift for the future and makes our life, all of it, into a life that gives life. These moments in Judaism are called moments of hidden goodness. In the words of Rabbi Gershon Weissman, when we are grieved or hurt, or when we experience the profound loss of a dear one, we are to recognize that even in such moments of difficulty, that God is always with us. When we have recovered from our loss or survived our suffering or gained wisdom and insight from our grief, that makes us a better, more caring person. We will have then found the hidden goodness in those moments too. The Jewish teaching says this too shall pass. In the reading we heard earlier from Ellen Bass, I hear echoes of this concept of hidden goodness too. She writes, when grief weighs you down and you think, how can a body withstand this? Then you hold life like a face between your palms, a plain face, no charming smile, no violet eyes, and you say, yes, I will take you. I will love you again. To open one's self anew despite pain, that, I think, is its own kind of blessing, for it is not easy to do. And it pulls some kind of goodness within us to the surface, that we are still willing, despite every reason, to do otherwise. Maybe this is both how we can experience and also be a blessing to others. I was taught when I studied the Hebrew Bible in seminary that the story of Genesis is the story of God's desire to bless all of humanity and humans' tendency to make mistakes. The idea, as I understand it, is that God created the world and loves it. God wants to bless God's creation. God appointed humans to help do so. But because we are human beings, who have a tendency to misunderstand and make mistakes, we can sometimes get in the way of the plan for goodness and blessing and cause harm and hardship. We can disobey, hurt each other, hurt the world, and hide from blessing, and maybe more importantly, from one another. I think that this maybe takes a much more interventionist view of God than many are comfortable with, and what it means to bless is open to interpretation. But if I know anything about people, it's that while we want so badly to do right and to believe in a force for good in the world, it's also easy to make mistakes, to hide from goodness, to refuse to let it find us, just the way humans hid from God and from one another. I believe that people are inherently good, that we as humans are worthy. But I think once we understand our tendencies toward imperfection, it's so much easier to give one another a little slack, a little grace, to understand why we are the way we are. This concept of blessing, of wanting goodness for the lives of humans, is one of the most important concepts in the Hebrew Bible. And now for those that may not believe in a God, this could be mystifying. I think there's a wideness of interpretation here that we can use. And I like the idea that there is a force out there known by a variety of names that wants goodness for all of us, even when the world doesn't feel good. Because there are a lot of times when the world doesn't feel good. I don't always love what this interpretation might have to say about sin and about human nature. But the beauty of our tradition is that we are allowed to make our own interpretations, to take an active role in the growth of our own souls. And so what does speak to me is the idea that there is a force for good out there in the universe, that force wants goodness for me and my life, for my family's life, for your life, for all of your family's lives, and that we are still in the process of understanding that, of allowing ourselves to receive that. And we may be in that process for a lifetime. But that doesn't stop that idea of original blessing, instead of original sin, from flowing. In these words from Frederick Buechner, I hear this same idea of a force for goodness in the universe. He writes, I recognize that even in the valley of the shadow of my own tangled thoughts, there is something holy and unutterable seeking to restore my soul. I always stop and touch the coarse gray bark of one particular tree with my hand or cheek, which I suppose is a way of blessing it for being so strong and beautiful. Who knows how long it has been standing there, wearing its foliage like a crown, even though a part of it is dying. Because of that quality of sheer endurance, one morning I found myself touching it, not to bless it, but to ask its blessing, so that I myself might move toward age and death with something like its stunning grace and courage. To go deeper, I believe that to want to give goodness to others and to recognize the goodness in others is a choice that may first require us to accept our own selves for the parts that are good and the parts that may not be. In this way, to bless is a choice. The Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker writes in her piece, "Choose to bless the world. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world." The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. To receive a blessing, to be blessed by someone else, is to let someone see the goodness in you. And that often requires us to let others see us, an act of vulnerability in today's world. In the words of Marilyn Robinson, there is a reality in blessing. It doesn't enhance sacredness, but it acknowledges it, and there is a power in that. I have felt it pass through me, so to speak. The sensation is one of really knowing a creature. I mean, really feeling its mysterious life and your own mysterious life at the same time. To acknowledge the sacred in someone or something, as Robinson describes, is to also acknowledge that this life is sacred, that all our ordinary tasks and our ordinary selves have meaning. It honors something that we already know is true. I recently heard the Reverend Matthew Potts, one of my former teachers, say that in its ancient roots, a blessing is not a valediction, but a validation. Blessing does not confer goodness anew. It honors goodness now. In other words, to bless is to acknowledge and honor something that is already true, rather than to make it so. He went on to say, bless you for who you were, bless you for who you are, bless you for who you will be. So as we close our time together this morning, I wonder, how will you acknowledge the goodness in someone in the coming weeks? Maybe someone you don't really know. How will you acknowledge all that they can offer the world? Will you let others see the goodness within you? Will you allow yourself to be known in a world that would have us do otherwise? In these words from the poet Maggie Smith, you could make this place beautiful. May it be so. Amen. I invite you to rise, either in body or in spirit, and join in singing our closing hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call forth songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful, may we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of orphans silent, let our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, hear me fair as heaven above.
We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we do because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world.
Friends, as we go forth from our time together this morning, my hope for you is that you choose to bless the world and that you let it bless you back. Go in peace.